Hello world. I wanted to talk to you today about the rhythm of time. I want to take the time to talk to you about time while I have the time before there is no time. So what I'd like to start with today is the Antikythera Mechanism. And one thing you will note within the Antikythera Mechanism, that many of the gears within the mechanism are prime numbers. Now let me show you how they all work, because they're magical, really. Now, you know, well, you don't have to trust me. Trust them. But the Antikythera Mechanism is more accurate than some of the star predicting software that we use today. And let me show you how wonderful I believe it is. It has a couple of gears that they've discovered to be prime numbers. And they're missing a few, and let me show you one or two they're missing. But they've defined them as 223 is the Solaris cycle. It moves that mechanism. The 127 moves the lunar mechanism. The 53 is the auxiliary gear, and then there's a 19, metra, not, I don't even know these words. You can Google them. 17 are various astronomical thingies, and 13 is the parts of the elliptic terrain. That one's actually important, and the 11 is the movements of the solar and lunar motion. So we're only going to focus on these gears. There's a couple of other ones that'll stick out, and some of them are math. So if we wanted to take a number, let's start with the pole being the pole is the pole, and we wanted to wrap a number around to use around the equator. Okay, and we're going to use this number. We're going to use 360 degrees because we love that 360 degree number to break a cycle down. We're going to use the 11, we're going to use the 13. And we're going to use another number, which I'm going to call the long year gear. That's 1, 2, 7, 7. Now when you multiply all these together, you get a number of 1, 3, 1, 4, 7, 9, 9, 20. So, within there, now you don't recognize that number, do you? No, maybe not. But if you divide it by 5 to 80, you get 24,901 and a half. Do you recognize that one? Wow, that works out so perfect. Why do we use 5280? Well, let's look in there. In there we got the 11 gear, and we have we have a different gear. We have a 3 gear and the 5 gear. And there's a bunch of 2s, but they're not a big deal. Now, why is it 40? Why is that number? And why is it a half? And why is there a 2 in here? Why is there a half? And why is this divisible by 24? Did you notice that? That's divisible by 24. When you take the 24 out of the picture, you get 220. 220 has the 5 gear in it. Wow. You know, all these numbers that we use today, they all mean something. We don't just use these numbers just because they're there. We use the foot every day. Every day. We use the mile every day. Shall I continue? Do I have your attention yet? Let's go on. So this number that wraps around the equator, that is the length that we use today, the foot, and is divided into miles because miles use the 5 gear mechanism. Now, its 5 gear is actually an equation that they're going to use. It's one of the knobs on the sextant. Did you know that? That's fine. We're not. This measurement can only be taken at midnight, so we only need half the divisions that we would normally need, which is why it's 42,901 and a half, and why that half is in the mile. Do I still have your attention? Where was I going with it? Oh, we haven't even gotten into how using these measurements as a prediction of a unit around the equator when you're sitting there measuring using your sextant. We can now use these numbers to get other information, because this one, the 53, is the movement that deals with all of the heavenly bodies. So each one of the heavenly bodies in their movements among the heavens, with the backdrop of the fixed stars as told in the Bible, are now an equation which is easily made because all of the movements of the heavenly bodies deal with that number, which you then can isolate out based taking the 24 out of the equation there for the time of day to make your equations easier because you know all the movements of all the heavenly bodies. Now, all this wonderfulness really doesn't click as much anymore because we no longer base our day, our life, our time on the movement of the heavenly bodies. Instead, we pagan worshippers like to base it upon the movement of the sun, because the Roman Catholics in the 1500s wanted to do tithing, and they didn't want to, it was easier to base it off the sun, and they didn't care about really measuring time. Now we could go into maybe they had a bigger thought in mind, but the time we measure today is not accurate with time. We have skewed it, and we have skewed it off the 13. Instead of measuring the movement of the heavenly bodies, and it would make the mathematical equations that the sextons used much easier, we base it off the movement of the sun, which is one of the gears. So as it's moving, time and the sun are slightly moving off of kilt from each other in the progression of 13 little notches every progression. And those 13 little notches are 13 feet in time of progression of the twisting of the heavenly bodies against the backdrop of the solar system, eventually moves us out of skew with time. Now, does that matter to you? I don't know. And really, in the big picture, I don't think everyone's going to throw out their calendar tomorrow and switch, but just really want you to know that we're no longer in sync with time. But our happy little iPhones will be happy to tell us what they think we should think the time is, because, they have a nuclear clock there calculating the time based off the movement of the solar system, instead of using simple little math that can be done. Where are they? You don't even need an abacus. You could actually use a calculator. We could use a calculator. I could actually show you how to do it with a pencil and pen. This is not hard division that was set kind of in stone. The whole reason I got on this, because I use the measurement of the foot because it is a measurement. Now, we can get into the cubit. Let me just touch on the cubit. We can also take this measurement, which is divisible by 24, because 24 is in the mix. 24 is in there. The reason we use 360 degrees is because it has a division by 24. Everything there's tell you, we love this number. Break this out. There's a 5 in there. My God, 360 has a 5 because it's all a mathematical equation to help us with the division of understanding the movements of the celestial bodies, which we have thrown to the wind because we are no longer in sync with time. Is this a conspiracy? I don't know. What does it go under? Karl Monk showed us how these guys were speaking, the rhythm, the messages they left. If we throw all this knowledge, I don't know. Please, people, there's way more to this. I'm not making anything up. I don't have to. It's written in stone. If you are on board with me with my understanding of time, I've got a pile of rocks to sell you, because there's way more to know and understand.